What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 1 of the Pack Mentality podcast, where we discuss all things Call of Duty Zombies. I'm your host, AQ Devi, joined by my wonderful co-host, Shorbz, and today we'll be discussing Season 2 of Black Ops 7 Zombies, namely our thoughts and expectations of DLC 2 Paradox Junction. Shorbz, take it away. What are you thinking about all of this, man? There's a lot to discuss here.
Yeah, man. I personally thought it was a pretty solid reveal. Obviously, I'm personally much more of a main map kind of guy. I like the Easter eggs and stuff. So it's a little painful for me waiting all the way until Season 2 Reloaded for Paradox Junction. But in terms of the reveal itself, I mean, looking forward to the starting room challenge. I'm glad that I had a lot of fun playing that in BO6. So the fact that that's coming back as like a permanent mode, I think is really good for zombies. It gives me something extra to do in the meantime while I'm waiting for Season 2 Reloaded. I think the guns that they're coming back with look really good. We got the Scorpion Evo, and there's that like laser AR thing from Advanced Warfare. So, again, I wish we were getting a full blown map here, but overall, I think it's a pretty solid reveal, and I'm looking forward to running up the rounds on Curse Survival on Mars, man. How about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, speaking of the guns, I think they also revealed it was like some sort of, I guess it's like an aftermarket part to go on the MXR that's going to make it resembles the hammer heavily from BO2, which sounds cool. I mean, I'm glad that even if the base guns or even some of the DLC guns might not like perfectly match old guns, they are able to. I'm happy that they're able to bring back those old guns in sort of a. I guess they're bringing back the guns in spirit, even through aftermarket parts. Um, as far as the starting room mode, I am super hyped about it, and I love the idea that they are bringing back old LTMs and making them permanent. I hope this isn't the only one, because I had a lot of fun with some other LTMs in BO6. Like the Abomination Challenge was a massive standout to me. Something about that really resonated. So I hope they can continue on and bring some old stuff that we enjoyed but only got for a limited time and make it a full-fledged part of BO7.
Yeah, man. I to your point with bringing like I guess the guns back in spirit, sort of. Yeah, things like the hammer, like using that and BO2 was a good time. So yeah, just overall, I think we're gonna have a good time with the guns, and I think Treyarch's really giving us a ton of content, especially in BO7. I think they did a pretty good job of that in BO6, but BO7 especially, like I said, even if like the survival stuff isn't exactly what I'm looking for, like we're still getting like guns to grind, camos to go for, and all that. So yeah, especially for your more, I guess, survival style player that wants to like high round or something, this is definitely geared more for them. But in general, we're getting a crazy amount of content. So big ups to Treyarch for doing that for sure.
Much more than last year. And I'm sure anyone can agree that has kept up from last year onto this game. I know some people, you know, maybe tried BO6 and didn't care for a year or two of that. But I would argue this is it is a spiritual successor in a lot of ways. It implements a lot of things that BO6 did. But I think it is heavily expanded upon it, and at least in terms of zombies. Um, and yeah, I think this year of content has been the gaps have been filled in a lot more than last year, and I really do appreciate that.
I kind of want to ask you how you feel about like the survival and like how it compares to just playing like BO2 survival and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think the systems really I guess the systems of BO7 I obviously really enjoy. I'm a modern zombies enjoyer. Compared to Black Ops 2 though. I mean I'm not necessarily someone that absolutely loves Black Ops 2 zombies. Some of the more full-fledged maps are great, and I do appreciate the survival experience. Obviously had a lot of great times on like town, for example. I do like that they are slowly giving us survival maps just to kind of make the weights more worth it. Like they're giving the maps a little bit of room to breathe, instead of just dropping all three of the survival maps we've gotten for Ashes at a time. They're kind of uh, again plugging those holes in, and they're just allowing us to continue to eat as the year goes on. As an experience itself, survival, I do enjoy it. It's obviously great for things like camo grinding, and I'm curious to see how cursed will translate into that specifically. If that will be the main way that people grind going forward, at least for the hardcore audience like ourselves, compared to just standard survival. Like, will standard survival die out for some of us, or will it continue to be as popular as it is?
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, no, those are, definitely interesting things that we're gonna have to take a look at, especially as time goes on. I thought you actually made a good point in terms of, like, the survival maps let the bigger maps breathe a little bit, because you and I both experienced this, pretty recently with the gap between Shattered Veil and Reckoning in BO6. That was, like, the
Absolutely.
hardest, like, what, 4 months of, like, being a Zombies fan ever, because it just felt like we were starved for such a long time that, even as somebody that's more of a big quest, like, big map Easter egg guy, it is, I guess, a little bit refreshing having these, like, survival experiences in between the bigger, more elaborate maps.
Yeah, and even with the context of knowing that the development cycle of Black Ops 6, which was supposed to be 7, but then they made 6 into 7, and then we had to get 6. Like, it was a very complicated thing. Like, having the context that they were stretched from 1 year to 2, it does make more sense why gaps like that did happen. But it didn't hurt any less. You know, it was definitely a gap that was felt. That I don't think grief as a mode necessarily helped. For some people really enjoyed it. You know, some people didn't play it at all. I would argue, and a lot of people played it for just a couple weeks and then got right off of it, which I was probably one of those people. I didn't play it for too long. The 115 wins Dark Ops, I don't think I'll ever go back and get. I respect it as a mode compared to Black Ops 2. I think, in my personal opinion, the Black Ops 6 grief is more fun than BO2 grief, but it just wasn't enough. I really need those full maps, you know?
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's to your point of, like, whether they were supposed to be making Black Ops 6 or Black Ops 7 and kinda got, overwhelmed with too much stuff to make, and you kinda see that in some of the BO6 maps for sure in terms of, they're not fully fledged out to the extent that we see that the BO7 maps are. I think as, like, somebody that loves Citadel, you can just kinda tell it's, like, it's a little bit surface level. Like, I wish that they expanded more on, like, Owl and the Bastard Sons and stuff, especially with, like, the lore of the castle and everything. So, yeah, it's nice that we're on this side of it now, knowing that BO6 was very likely sort of the appetizer to BO7's main quest, and you can see that back to our original point with, like, these survival maps kind of bridging the gaps between the bigger maps, whereas when in BO6, we had to just sit there for, like, 4 months with a LTM and grief that we didn't care about. So, yeah, no, those are good points.
Yeah, I doubt they will ever expand on the owl, but I hope it comes up at some point. I know, like, BO6 definitely made a lot of teasers to the chaos story. I hope that comes back in some form. So if there's hope for that, maybe there's some hope in the future that some of the lesser expanded upon lore of BO6 might come back. I don't know. That might be a bit of a far cry, but yeah, I feel like there's a lot of lore points all throughout the COD Zombie storyline that they could bring back in some form, and honestly, BO7 might be a very good time to do so with how the story's going now of the dark aether and everything being put into it, and we see certain things creeping up, of course, like the classic pack a punch machine. It's very interesting. There's a lot of ways that we could talk about that, but yeah, I hope to I hope to see more of that crop up as the year goes on, and maybe even get some explanation to why that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, at least I'm hoping that they sort of tie up some loose ends here. It seems like this story, at least so far, is much more interesting than BO6, and I'm really hoping that they keep the momentum going because yeah, at least through the first two maps, they're crushing it. So yeah, even if we don't get sort of the answers that we wanted in BO6, at least we got something really good going here in BO7. In terms of Paradox Junction, the new map, what are your thoughts on the name, the logo, the teaser that we got, the little snippet, like yeah, just overall thoughts on what we got so far about Paradox Junction.
Well, the map name, it's I'm pretty torn on it. Much like I was for The Reckoning when it was called The Reckoning. It's kind of a mouthful, Paradox Junction, but it sounds like it's very enticing to theorize upon. I know some of the stuff that came out called this map a place out of time, which there's so much mystery surrounding this map, and especially I'm wondering if this map is going to be our little break from what we've got in the past two maps, which is the obvious, take down the Shadow Smith and then restore two souls. I'm wondering if this will be a little break to that, and then we'll continue on, get two more of those style maps, and then end on a big finale. Yeah, the logo obviously very much points towards what we've seen in the past, that it's going to be in some way inspired by Alpha Omega, which not a problem on this end. Uh, Not an Alpha Omega hater whatsoever. It has its problems, of course. It's not a perfect map, but I love the retro future aesthetic of Alpha Omega, as well as Nuketown. And I think with Alpha Omega, Rushmore really just expanded upon that and made that map a real treat for me. It might be a minority opinion, but yeah, I'm curious to see how they'll do it all in this map and how heavily inspired by Alpha Omega it really is.
Yeah, as a avid Alpha Omega defender, I'm right there with you. um, I definitely hope that I know some people were saying that like they would like a different version of like TED tasks on Astra Balorum. I'm kind of hope I would love to see like a Rushmore, something Rushmore like equivalent of a TED task. I think that would be such a smart callback in terms of because we already interacted with them in Alpha Omega, and I'm not sure if like obviously that's what they're bringing back, if Rushmore is even going to be a thing in Paradox Junction. But yeah, to your point about the name, I don't remember who said this, but I remember seeing somebody say that it sounds like a location within a map as opposed to like a map itself.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
which
see
I
that.
think is a good point. Yeah. um, so I guess we'll see. Yeah, we'll see, I guess, how much is up to the name. I remember watching, there was a Donuts video, and he mentioned how it's the same font as Attack of the Radioactive Thing, which, to your point, sort of hints at that sort of like retro, like 50s, 60s vibe that you get when you're playing like Nuketown or Alpha Omega.
Wow. I did not consider that. That is actually awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it's I guess we'll see where they go with it. There's definitely like there's so many questions about it, and I think that's something that we haven't gotten in a long time because there's really little to nothing leaked about this map. So we're all kind of just in the dark like theorizing about it, which, obviously is I think it's a really good thing. And to your point about in the description during the blog post they mentioned it being I think outside of time. I'm pretty sure you mentioned that. I
Yeah.
wonder if when the warden at the end of the Astra Malorum cutscene, if when he says like that we've earned ourselves a timeout, basically, I'm wondering if that's sort of a play on words that we're going to be outside of time, or if he's maybe I'm
Ooh.
looking into it too much, but um, yeah, I mean maybe the timeout is just saying that like this map is not going to be like collecting souls, or maybe he was just saying that he's pissed at us and doesn't and wants to send us somewhere where we're not going to like ruin his plans anymore, or maybe he is referencing that we are going to be outside of time. But yeah, to my earlier point, it's just one of many questions that we have about Paradox, and the logo and the name just added more questions instead of answers. So yeah, I guess we'll see what we get with the next map. What are some things that you're hoping to see with Paradox Junction in terms of like quest, wonder weapon, like atmosphere, like all that kind of stuff? Do you have any ideas in mind or things that you're hoping to see?
Before we get to that, I want to talk about a certain aspect of the map, which is the possible Mob of the Dead ties that we've been seeing crop up. Like the Blundergat may be returning, and to your point about the Warden putting us in timeout, I've gone on record saying that that sounds an awful lot like. I mean, when you hear a Warden tell you he's putting you in timeout, that sounds like prison. I don't know. I might be reaching, but I'm so curious why there are so many potential Mob of the Dead ties to this, because it's a huge question mark on this map. Because I don't necessarily associate Alpha Omega with Mob, and one is considered one of the greatest maps of all time in general, and one is considered one of the worst maps of all time. So I I want to get into that before we theorize like the meat and potatoes of the map, because I feel like that's a huge question mark that could create massive conversation. It boggles my mind.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess I haven't seen. I've seen that there was a leak that at least one. Apparently, there's a leak that there's two wonder weapons on the map, or maybe it is just one, and they're just like remaking the Blundergat. But would you prefer if we got the original Blundergat or like a version of that, or would you rather just have them come up with their own wonder weapon and not have any kind of like ties to Mob of the Dead?
Let me expand on your question to get a clear picture. Are you asking me if I would prefer the Blundergat over a unique wonder weapon for this map, like if there's only one? Or could you explain a little more what you mean?
Let's see. What's the best scenario for you? Is it that there's one wonder weapon and it's the Blundergat, one wonder weapon and it's an original wonder weapon, or that there's two wonder weapons and one's the Blundergat and the other one's the original?
That is a fantastic question. And I think, you know, Black Ops 6 got a lot of flack for bringing back classic wonder weapons, reusing classic wonder weapons. And I think if they are going to do something like that, to return some of the older wonder weapons, they ought to also have a unique one on the map, and that I think that kind of might please both people. I feel like some people that are very critical of returning wonder weapons might still get upset that it's not 100% unique. But if there's one unique one that they can lean on, I think that should be fine, and that would also allow for bringing back old ones. I think in my perfect instance, it would be two wonder weapons, one original, and one returning out of those options.
Yeah, I'm not sure
What
if I
about
would
you?
prefer. That is a tough question. The one that I definitely don't want is that they just bring back the Blundergat. I would prefer an original wonder weapon, and I don't know if I would want the Blundergat to if they can bring the Blundergat back and have it be really well and have a really good explanation as to why the Blundergat is in the map, then I think I'm okay with them bringing it back. I just don't want like another version of the tomb where they bring back the ice staff and it's just like there for like vibes basically. Like there was no reason why the ice staff was there. So yeah, I guess if we do get a good reason, I mean we are going to be in like hell basically, obviously. So
That's another connection.
yeah, I can't imagine it's going to be like too difficult to come up with like the reasoning behind the blender gap being down there. But um, yeah, I guess in my ideal world, just for like fun's sake, maybe they like make a different version of the blender gat. Like they already made the magma gat from Blood of the Dead, so I don't know how they would tie it in, but if they can just revamp it a little bit so it just feels a little bit different, and then have the original wonder weapon in the map as well, I think I'd agree with you there. That's probably the best case scenario.
Wow. I have a lot to say about that. You hit a couple things. So yeah, of the two options, I would definitely prefer a unique one over a returning one if we were only to get one, of course. As far as explanation for why it's returning, I guess I never considered that. Like the fact that we are in some sort of hellish map, like I didn't think about how that could potentially serve as an explanation why it is there. In my mind, it was kind of just like, hell, Mob of the Dead, and Blundergat. Like there was like a logical line that like could make that make sense, but if they were able to explain that in some sort of way because it is a hellish map, that that would really ramp it up for me for like now hoping that it's like almost definitely there. There's something else I wanted to say, but it's kind of escaped me at this point. um, but yeah, I'm super excited about that. Like I said, in a perfect world, I really hope it is. If they are gonna bring the Blundergat back, I still do hope that we get uh something unique as well. Just because I know someone, including you, it seems would kind of be critical of that, which is totally fair.
Yeah, at least a little bit. At the same time, I guess I personally don't think that we're getting any kind of like mob connections. I think it's, based on like the logo has like the Nuketown explosion, the little like 9-second snippet that we got. Those are on like a sidewalk that's basically like some kind of corner of a house or like a wall, and it just like looks like it's from Nuketown. So I personally don't think that we're getting any kind of like Blundergat or like mob ties or anything, but yeah, if we were to get one, I would definitely want it to be revamped, like to some extent. Like they revamped the jet gun when they brought it back in BO6, the ice stat. Like they made all of the wonder weapons that they did bring back in BO6. They made all of them better, which I do appreciate. I'm glad that we didn't just get like the original like jet gun on Liberty Falls. So if we do get, a Blundergat or like a variant of it, or maybe we get the Blundergat and you can do like a little side quest to get different variants of it, I think that would be pretty cool. Maybe some elemental Blundergats going. Who says no? What are your thoughts on that?
I Okay, okay. Yeah, well, I remembered what I wanted to say, and it kind of went into what you were talking about again with the returning wonder weapons. The it was always a sore spot. This is a little tangent, but it was always a sore spot that for some reason they brought back just the ice staff to the tomb, and that was always just such a strange decision to me, that they didn't go all out. Whereas with something like Mob, the only thing really is the Blundergat. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would be fine with elemental blundergats, still assuming that we get something that is still unique. I don't think it would get very good reception if we were to get something that people complained about all last year. Like people were very very critical of that, myself included. Even though they made them much better, I think there was a level of creativity that was in question at that point. But as for elemental blundergats, I mean, if that's the route they go with the blundergats specifically, I'm here for it. Yeah, there's potential there to spice things up for sure. I'd also like to point out that what notoriously created a paradox in the zombie storyline, it's the blood vials, case closed. There's gonna be some relation to Mob. I'm telling you, there's just too much. There's just too much, and I hope I'm right.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't complain if I saw the ties. I guess I just, I'm not quite there yet. Maybe I'll convince myself of it as we get closer to season 2 Reloaded. But yeah, man, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe there is a good reason why we get it in the map, but only time will tell. I also think it would be received better if it didn't happen. What, like 3 times in BO6? Like if BO6 had all original Wonder Weapons, and then they just now decided to bring one back in the Blundergat, I think I would be much more open to that idea. But I mean, we already said that they kind of were stretched a little bit thin in making BO6 and BO7 basically at the same time. I just think it's so obvious that BO7 was like the main project the entire time that I would be slightly disappointed if we didn't get a new Wonder Weapon just all on its own. And if they want to do the Blundergat on the side, then that's fine. But yeah, for me personally, I'm really leaning towards the original Wonder Weapon.
Yeah, and then going back to the development and how it relates to Black Ops 7 and Black Ops 6, that there's always the point that kind of sticks to me, which is that like something more unique that was clearly out of the realm of what BO6 was kind of leaning into was like Citadel was one that very much stuck out to me. And I'm wondering if Citadel was originally like that was going to be one of the original maps for this full game that they were planning, and then because they found out that they had to stretch to 2 years, like, okay, let's bring Citadel because we already introduced a map with a returning wonder weapon. We don't want to do that the whole time, so let's give them the swords. They'll be happy about the swords, and then maybe we can get away more with your ray guns and your ice staff. So there's definitely a question in there of like what was always meant to go where, and in an alternate universe, what might that have looked like? I don't know.
Right.
I don't think we'll ever know. But yeah, maybe in putting Citadel in BO6, that left room for them to fill in, and they're like, oh, let's bring back the Blundergat. Although I think they would have had enough time to come up with something purely unique, which it sounds like they did. It sounds like we are getting two wonder weapons. We'll see about that.
Yeah, that's kind of I guess a segue into the next point of um, yeah, like things that we're hoping to see in Paradox. The point that I kind of brought up originally. I guess while we're on the topic of wonder weapons, I would really like to see like an overpowered wonder weapon, sort of like Apothicon Servant type wonder weapon. We've gotten two so far, and the Gauntlet and the LGM I'm personally a big fan of. They're both pretty fun to get. The LGM's kind of tedious, but they look fantastic. Like these are insane looking wonder weapons. The problem with them is they don't do all that much damage because they're infinite ammo. And I'd really like to see just like your ice staff from the tomb, or like the Apothicon Servant, like I said, where you just kind of point and shoot and like delete an entire horde of zombies. That's like the main thing that I would like to see. I really don't want another wonder weapon where it's like infinite ammo and doesn't really do all that good of a job of actually killing zombies. So yeah, is there anything besides like it being original that you'd like to see in the wonder weapon of the map?
I feel like you could definitely argue your point for the LGM. It is low damage, infinite ammo. I don't know, the necrofluid gauntlet though, it kills quite a bit. Even though it is also infinite ammo. I think that is, but that's different than I think what you're talking about, which is infinite ammo, but there's that challenge of having to, or sorry, you're talking about infinite damage with limited ammo to create a sort of a push and pull effect, I think. Which, yeah, we haven't seen one at least since the tomb. Yeah, I think they need to make the wonder weapons throughout this life cycle distinct, and doing something like that would definitely be a part of that. Obviously, the like you said, the vibes of both the wonder weapons in this game are absolutely immaculate. The even just the sounds that they create, I love. But yeah, I hope that they don't all function the same. And we're two for two. They're not so similar necessarily in those ways. The LGM famously pretty weak, which does make sense. But yeah, I think if they were to do a wonder weapon like with what you're talking about, that would be a good way to distinguish. And then yeah, the Blundergat, we know the Blundergat's good, but that's also like a this is pretty limited ammo pool if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how much ammo the Blundergat had. Maybe they could do like if you remember the MAD from Attack of the Radioactive thing, where you could just kind of collect ammo throughout the map.
Hmm.
Maybe there's like lava pools or something where if you like collect, maybe like each pool gives you like one ammo in stock, and it has a total of like, I don't know, 12 to 15 bullets, similar to the Apothicon Servant. But they all did like each shot did like crazy damage, like wiped out an entire horde kind of thing. I think that would be a much better idea. I do, like I said, to your point, I appreciate the LGM and the Gauntlet for what they are. I'm a big fan of both of them, but I'd really like to see just some like completely like effortless, just press a button and you're good to go kind of thing. We haven't gotten that in quite some time, and I think this would be a great map to sort of go back to those roots on. So yeah, I guess we'll see what they come up with.
Yeah, I think if they were to design a wonder weapon where you would have to pick up ammo in some particular place on the map, I hope people wouldn't consider that tedious. And I guess it would depend on if it were multiple spots that you could get it from, and how many of those areas there are and how spread apart they are. Yeah, I could definitely see people arguing that it could be tedious, but at the same time, if it's a point and delete weapon, like, maybe it's worth it and maybe it wouldn't get that level of
Right.
criticism. I would definitely be curious to see something like that though. I'll let you cook. I'm here for it.
Yeah, just I mean, obviously just an idea, but I guess the problem with the MAD was that it didn't do a whole lot of damage either. I guess that's why there was the infinite ammo that you could kind of collect around the map. But with ammo boxes in general, it's kind of every weapon that you have is unlimited ammo anyway. So you might as well
True.
make something that's like OP, especially considering the fact that people are pretty dissatisfied with the LGM damage wise right now. So I think it'd be a good contrast to that to come up with something that's like you get 10 total shots and then you have to either buy ammo or get a max or whatever. But those shots like wipe out an entire horde. I think that'd be a good contrast to what we've gotten in Astra Malorm for sure.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's the question of if you were to have to go and get ammo from some particular spots littered around the map, like would they would it be smart to maybe even like lock you out of using the ammo crate for that particular weapon, or do you think people would be upset by that, like forcing you to have to get ammo this way? Obviously max ammos as well, but I feel like that would curb some of the problem that, yeah, you kind of touched on, which is every wonder weapon is kind of infinite ammo at the end of the day. What do you think about like forcing people to not be able to rely on that and have to go fend for themselves and go find it?
I don't know. I think like forcing somebody to not be able to like basically you can't use the ammo crate for the wonder weapon and you have to sort of seek out these like in my idea like lava pits or whatever. Maybe that could be tedious. I would understand like the backlash that that might get, but maybe it actually just gets viewed as like sort of a bonus if you like really, if you remember like Blood of the Dead, greatest map of all time. Um, when you get the shield, there every I don't know if it's every round or every like few rounds, there's one like shock box around the map, and we know you and I both know Blood of the Dead's massive.
Oh yeah.
Like one shock box where you could just interact with it and it fills your shield with souls.
Yep.
Maybe it's a
Yep.
situation like that. It's like, maybe every like few rounds there's one little thing around the map that spawns in that you can interact with to get a max ammo, but then you can also obviously that's sort of your free max ammo that you get as opposed to like spending the 10,000 points to fill up the max ammo. So I'd say I personally wouldn't like it if they prevented you from buying ammo from the crates and they treated it more so as like you can collect ammo from these lava pits or whatever every few rounds and just kind of get like a free max ammo from that for the wonder weapon specifically.
Interesting. Yeah, I to be fair, I don't think they're going to do any of this, but
Right, right, right.
it would be really cool to see them, sort of change up the formula. I would definitely be down for that.
In terms of the atmosphere and the quest, what are you hoping to see in those two aspects?
That's tough. As far as atmosphere, like, it is very, one might say, paradoxical that they're inspired by Alpha Omega, which is this very clean. Like, there is some rubble, of course, around the map, but it's this very, like, compared to, like, we know that we're, or seemingly know that we're going to some hellish environment. I don't know what to think with all that's been said about it and how that will actually translate. It is a bizarre juxtaposition, and I like the idea of a hellish map. Why they would choose Alpha Omega to sort of like be injected into that is another massive question mark to this.
Right, right.
But I do hope if they're gonna go hellish that they kind of go all the way with it and really like emphasize that. I like you mentioned lava pools. I'm expecting to see something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I need more information. I guess yeah, my hope is that they go hellish and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, based off of like there was the picture that was posted based off of like where the entity goes. She sort of tell like we kind of get like a sneak peek of what the map's gonna look like, especially if like that's the atmosphere plus whatever like hellish alpha omega aspects that we get with it. I think we're gonna be in for a pretty crazy crazy map. I remember in like BO6, like this is how far we've come. I was just hoping Shattered Veil was a night map because I think that would fit sort of the like mansion atmosphere much better. I was, closer to Dead of the Night, I guess. And we've come so far from just like hoping a map takes place at night that we sort of have a sneak peek of what the next map's going to look like, and we still have no clue what to expect going into it. I think we're in a really good spot in terms of atmospheres. Like that's not a concern of mine at all. Um,
Absolutely.
in terms of the main quest, though, are you more of a Astra main quest guy, more Ashes? Like, is there a certain like time period that you hope it gets solved in, or like how elaborate it might be? Do you have any? Yeah, like what are your thoughts on that overall?
Oh, that's a touchy subject when you consider what's going on now with the supposed tool that can solve anything at any time. I hope that they're able to make a quest that takes a long time to solve. I think, launch day when everyone's grinding for that first completion is one of the most fun times
It's so
in the
fun, dude.
zombies community. Every map, it's everyone's just coming together and having a great time, even just exploring on their own time. But yeah, I hope it takes a long time, of course. I don't know how well that's going to go with the recent news of the tool, but yeah, as far as I mean, we could get into like what the boss fight's going to look like. Like is it going to be the warden? I feel like I've heard that a decent amount. What are your thoughts on some kind of boss fight?
Dude, I don't even know what to like what the boss fight could possibly be because we're not getting like, Patient 13 is like a kraken, like the Guardian's a statue, the T-Rex is a T-Rex. Like we're not even getting like mythical creatures anymore. We're getting like these horrible like actual like nightmarish sort of like flesh boss fights that like nobody even knows like what to make of it. So I can't even tell you what I would expect for a final boss. I just know it's gonna like blow my mind the first time I see it. I really hope it's difficult though. I definitely don't want to be able to like complete it on my first go. I'm hoping that there's more like map unique or sort of just unique mechanics, I guess, to the boss fight in general. They did a good job with that in Ashes of the Damned, but we've mentioned Attack of the Radioactive Thing a couple times during this podcast, and I think it might be my favorite boss fight of all time because there's just so many different like unique things that you have to do to beat
Yep.
the Krogzilla, and it's so much fun as opposed to just like running around in a circle and like shooting it a trillion times. So I guess the hope that I would have, I don't know what to expect, but the hope is that we get some kind of like unique mechanics or something. And then in terms of the length of the solve for the main quest, I love like a good elaborate main quest. So I think Ashes took 10 hours. I'm pretty sure 10 to 12.
Sounds right. Yeah.
I'd love to see this one take like pick a week. I don't know. Like obviously that's that's very like that's not going to happen, of course, but the longer the better in terms of how long it takes to solve the main quest. If we got something that was like 15 hours to solve, I would be beside myself. Like I would be so happy if that was the case. Yeah, just for me, it's like the longer and like more elaborate a main quest is, the better. So that's what I'm hoping for. Just basically unique mechanics in the boss fight, and then a pretty long main quest. I'm not sure if you gave. Are you more of a like shorter quest guy, longer quest? How do you feel about that, and what are you hoping to see for Paradox Junction?
I definitely think that there is a sweet spot. Quests can be tedious, quests can be short. I mean, Astra Malorum is a pretty quick quest, which I think the fact that it sort of locks you out of a particular part of the map is interesting, and I think in some ways that kind of benefits from having a shorter quest just so you can get to that new spot, which is such a treat, such a throwback to Shangri-La. It's awesome. It's more than just a boss fight arena, which
Yeah.
I don't know if that's ever been done before. A place you can go to that is also the boss fight arena,
Hmm.
but you can just play normally, which I really appreciate. But yeah, there's definitely, as long as they're not locking us out of a location, I would prefer, I guess what would be considered a medium to long length egg. Obviously, the steps are what determine how long a quest might be in a lot of ways. But yeah, I guess if the length and the tediousness of particular steps kind of have to get this good ratio of, if they're really simple steps, I'm totally fine with it being a pretty lengthy quest.
Okay.
Lots and lots of those simpler steps. Now if they're pretty hard to replicate steps in that case, then yeah, definitely trim some of the fat off and make the time come from completing the steps, and not just the amount of them. It depends, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe still like a an issue that I would have with some of the like more modern eggs is how some of it feels like it's not actually that long of an egg. They kind of just what do you call it? You have to wait to a certain round to do something. And I personally like I'm not too big a fan of that kind of stuff just because it feels like it's sort of artificial in a way. Like it feels like it's
I
not actually
agree.
like a challenging like aspect of the Easter egg. It's more so, oh, I gotta get to round like whatever, 8 to fight Uber Klaus. I gotta get to round 16 to get this Zursa if I want to get that part for the like the blood step for the gauntlet. So yeah, there's just different. I mean, even in Astra, like the beginning part, you're just like waiting for Oscar four times to kind of get going with the egg. So I'm
Yep.
hoping that they kind of improve on that a little bit, and then we're not getting like waiting till round X to get this kind of zombie to spawn in, or do whatever step because it only unlocks after this round. I'm definitely hoping that they kind of fix that a little bit, and to your point, sort of trim the fat off of it a little bit while still making like really fun, enjoyable, memorable steps.
Yeah, and I think the speedrunning community would definitely agree with you on this, that if you are a speedrunner, you definitely don't want forced elongated time with things like waiting for Oscar, or like you mentioned, the Uber Klaus. Like, yeah, like I get why they do it, and no matter what, like you're always gonna, like, you're never gonna beat the boss before that round probably anyways. I guess if you really min-maxed, you might be able to, but I don't think that there's any reason for it. I mean, I guess you could argue for Uber Klaus, like maybe he would be too hard to fight. Like if you were able to run up on him at round 1, that might like spoil the
Like
order of
surprise
the
of it.
steps, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, there's a lot to it. I think in general though, I agree that there's no reason to kind of, especially with Oscar. I get that it's like a function of the map, like, when you kill him, you get a couple of rounds of breathing room, but I feel like maybe if you were to kill Oscar by using the rocket with the ice crystals, he would immediately spawn back in, or even definitely the next round. I feel like there might be some ways to implement that. Like, if the game knows that you're going for the quest, to speed up some things like that. And just to go back to the boss fight for a moment, you actually put out a tweet asking what is considered a good boss fight, and I think you kind of touched on what my same sentiments were of, if it's going to be a phase sort of boss fight, which I think is pretty locked in these days. It's a pretty consistent thing we've been seeing, that in my opinion and yours, it seems all the phases should feel distinct and not necessarily just like ramped up, sort of like how Caltheris is once Caltheris's physical form is spawned in, but it should be that they are distinct from one another, different mechanics that you're kind of having to balance. I think that that's a big important thing that I hope they kind of lean into here. And I think that might even be helpful for the people that consider boss fights too hard. Instead of the phases just like ramping up in difficulty, maybe someone's able to master phases 1 and 2, but not for difficulty reasons, but for different mechanical reasons. Phase 3 might be really difficult for them. And I don't know what you think about that.
Dude, yeah, like that just made me think of the attack boss fight. Like I
Yep.
remember I was playing with a buddy of mine and he could never hit the turret shots because the crit point on Krogzill's chest is like tiny. And I was able to hit those, and then we would do the parkour step and I would like die on the lasers, and he was really good at doing like the bomb step at the very end. So like to your point, I think it's good, especially if you go in like as a team, how some people are just going to be better at like different, especially if they're like super unique phases of the boss fight. You can kind of like lean on each other a little bit, like more in phase one compared to phase two, and getting pretty not tired, but like the three phase thing where the enemy, like the boss, just gets stronger as you keep going. I think they've kind of fully fledged that out, and I'd like to see them implement more unique mechanics, especially at the end of the Krogzilla fight where you like put in a code that you had to remember from earlier in the quest, like something crazy like that, where you could fail if, especially on your first attempt, you would fail it basically if you didn't factor in this code. And maybe in the game they kind of let you know a little bit to like remember this code, and you write it down or something, and then at the end you realize that you have to, this is just an example, but like type in something, or like maybe instead of like numbers it's like symbols in what is that keeper language or whatever it is. Like you have to put those
Yeah.
symbols in a certain order in order to beat a boss fight or something. I'd really like to see some kind of like really out there unique mechanic, especially in a game where Treyarch says that they're really going out there and doing a lot of unique stuff. And I mean, so far, everything that they've done so far has been phenomenal, in my opinion. So just something like that would be really welcome, and it'd be really refreshing to see that in a boss fight for sure.
Yeah, you made a good point about going into something like that as a team, and I guess that would be a good way of like giving each player some sort of role based on their strengths and weaknesses. I absolutely love that idea, and I think like you said, attack is a great example of that, just because all of the different pieces of that boss fight are so unique from one another, and I think they need to lock in and do something like that again. I think it would go over well compared to people just complaining about difficulty these days, which we've seen twice now.
Yeah.
And I feel like that too would also prevent some of the cheesiness. If you just make a boss harder, but there's a way to cheese that boss, then its difficulty is pretty much redundant, like we saw with the frenzied guard exploit, I guess you could say, for Caltheris. But if there are different phases, and maybe you have to attack it with explosive damage only in this phase, and then in this one you need someone is going to need like maybe like a particular ammo mod. It only takes fire damage. I think maybe if they were to adopt some, and I'm just realizing this, if they were to adopt some of the like requirements that we see in some of the relic trials, that those could be good like markers to set for each different phase. And I
Okay.
think it would sort of like limit you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think like that would be a good implementing it. I was kind of thinking about. I feel like it shouldn't be so much like when I'm playing Caltheris, I make sure I have like a decent amount of leftover points because I'm gonna need to buy ammo probably as well as armor during the boss fight. And I feel like
Oh
it
yeah.
should be less about, I guess, how prepared you are for the boss fight, or like if you have like the meta gun for the boss or whatever. I think it should be less about that and more about like, the laser step and attack, like being able to, like, that's like a skill thing. That's like pure skill. Can you dive under one and jump over another and get there in time? I would like to see just more, I guess, skill based boss fight mechanics where you're rewarded for, I guess, just like being able to, wall jump. Wall jumping is a thing in BO7 that is brand new. Like if you had to wall jump from like three different platforms and land on this like tiny thing to interact with something that like traps the boss, and then you can do damage to it or something. I think that would be so much better than just, oh, I got to make sure I have this OP gun and fully upgrade it and then save up enough points, and do I have the right like gums and field upgrades and stuff. I'd just like to see more like unique stuff in that regard where you get rewarded, especially with I know like I said the wall jumping thing. Like we have this really fun mechanic that's been added to the game, and they've yet to I guess really relies on that, especially in like a boss fight thing. And I would love to see, I mean, this next map or any of the future maps if they could implement that in a way that makes it so you get rewarded for being able to, wall jump strategically and some kind of unique mechanic where you can use that in the boss fight. So just an idea, obviously, one of many that we have. But yeah, that's something. One of the main things I'd like to see in a new boss fight.
I do dig that, and I think BO3 was actually a pretty good example in some of the boss fights that kind of did something similar to what you're talking about. You know, you have the Revelations boss fight where you're having to throw around the summoning key, right? Or like DE, you have to be very strategic about, when you place the Ragnaroks and the very particular part to kind of shoot at on the giant keeper. I think for as much as I don't necessarily care for some of the BO3 boss fights, I think they ironically in my case kind of leaned into what we're talking about. So maybe if they were to make a return and kind of toe the line between, skill and very specific bits and things that you have to accomplish, as well as doing some amount of damage, I think that would be great. Because I agree, I don't like having to just accrue a bunch of points just to make sure I can continue to buy ammo. I think there should be some sort of balance to that. And if they were going to be three different phases, maybe one can be a damage phase just to make worth, getting your gun to quadruple pack a punch versus going in with a double packed blue rarity weapon, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So if they towed that line, I think that would be my preferred boss fight.
Yeah, yeah, you should definitely be like rewarded for setting up to some extent. It just, especially in Astra Malorum, it just kind of feels a little bit redundant. Like it feels like it kind of breaks up the game flow a little bit more than I would like. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think regardless, I think Treyarch knows exactly what to do in order to make it. I mean, even if there's like bad qualities to the boss fights, I still have enjoyed every boss fight from BO6 on. So regardless, I have a good feeling that they're going to cook with it like they have been.
Before we wrap up, I did want to ask your thoughts on the fact that we saw no new perk, ammo mod, field upgrade for anything on the season 2 roadmap. What do you think about that? Do you think they are just maybe saving those things for season 2 reloaded and they're just not showing it, like waiting till closer to release? Because we apparently know that we're getting Widow's Wine back. Do you think that has since been moved forward to DLC 3? Or yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm confused now.
Yeah, so in terms of like the ammo mod and field upgrade, like I personally like don't care at all basically. I only use Ether Shroud in terms of field upgrade.
This
Um
guy.
so yeah, if they came up with something else, like I said, I just wouldn't even use it. It would just be a waste of time for me. Same thing with the ammo mod. I don't really like Fireworks is the ammo mod because it's cool looking. I don't even know if it's like the best or whatever. It just that's kind of just what I go with.
It's definitely one of the
Um
best. Yeah.
right.
With the right
I
augments, fireworks is great.
Okay. They gave us a gobble gum, which sucks by the sounds of it. It just like turns three zombies, which you could do with like five other things in the game. So there's really no point in using that gum, in my opinion.
Is is that what the gobble gum does? I didn't actually look at that.
Yeah, I think it's called Turncoat, and it turns three zombies, and it's like
What?
it's like it's a blue one, so it's just like I don't know. I'm just gonna crush
Oh,
it basically.
okay. Okay. Fair
Yeah, I think
enough.
yeah. It's not like a legendary or ultra or whatever, but yeah, I that's pretty unimpressive to me. Perk a new perk coming out would have been nice to see. Maybe they are saving it for the like closer to season two Reloaded. I mean, Widow's Wine. We all love Widow's Wine. I guess I wonder if that would make it like even easier than maybe it already is. I feel like we already have too many things at our expense to kind of get us out of jail. Like I said, Ether Shroud. You could do like you have the ammo mod. You could do Electric Cherry on your the pop. Like, there's so many things that kind of get us out of a corner that Widow's Wine would just kind of add to that. So I'm
Yeah.
personally fine not getting that. And even in season 2 Reloaded, like if we don't get that, I'm cool with it. But yeah, I guess if they were coming out with it, I definitely would have liked to see it in the blog post so we can kind of know like what's coming and theorize about that and stuff. But personally, the field upgrade ammo mod stuff, yeah, that doesn't bother me one bit. Why are you more of a new field upgrade ammo mod kind of guy, or what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, there. I think the more content, the better. Now if that comes at the expense of the real important content like the maps and all that, then of course don't worry about it. But even if they were to bring back like Ring of Fire, I think that could be fun. Although they may have to nerf it compared to Cold War.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I'm just confused because I was under the impression that we were probably gonna get a new perk every map. And Widow's Wine's a good one, like you said though. It would definitely make us quite OP. Yeah, and I'm wondering what perks I would even like to see going forward. Like, it sounds like you're fine if we get no more like defensive perks. So I'm curious, are you looking more for offensive perks or more so utility perks like Mule Kick and Vulture Aid?
Probably, I think Who's Who would be a fun one. It's funny, like they implemented it on Die Rise, which is like the easiest map ever to take fall damage on. So I think if they like that was fun to use back in the day. I appreciate Who's Who for like what it did. I think they brought Who's Who back in Cold War, didn't they?
Yeah, that they but they called it Tombstone. Yeah, it
Oh,
was
the
a
old
weird
the old
thing.
switcheroo. Okay.
Well,
Um,
it was both in Cold War. Like you got
okay,
Who's
the
Who, but also you got your Tombstone. I guess to
okay.
make it more worth the purchase price.
I'd say something like Who's Who. I think that would be fun. Yeah, like spawning way away from your body, you get a gun, like no perks or anything. I'd like to see something like that where it's more so, I guess you could call that defensive, but it's really just like I don't know. I think it's more it's not defensive in the sense that like it's like jug or something. It's basically I don't know. It's almost like a bet on yourself that you're good enough to get yourself up without any kind of like perks or like crazy guns or anything. So if they could do like Who's Who in terms of a true remake of the Who's Who from BO2, that would be something that I'd like to see. And I mean, even Widow's Wine or something. To your point, we are pretty OP as we are. So like, I don't think we need Widow's Wine, but I'd just like to see it because it's cool. But yeah, besides those two, probably a more offensive one. I don't really think we need more like get out of jail free cards in BO7 zombies. But if we could do stuff that like buffs our guns even more or does something else that helps us kill zombies, then I guess that would be the route that I would like to go down. But yeah, those are my thoughts on different perks that we could get and what I'd like to see. What about you? Would you like to see more offensive or
Yeah, I mean, the more damage, the better, always. Especially because it just came out as well. We have confirmation that the health cap is actually increased in cursed mode, up to around 85, which is shocking. I didn't think that that would be the case at all. It makes sense, but at that point, yeah, maybe give us a little more damage, which I guess does come in the form of a fourth pack a punch ultra rarity. But yeah, I guess offensive perks are always great. Utility perks, I think Meal Kick, for me has been a standout since it was implemented. I'm not someone who particularly enjoys having three guns, and honestly, probably if I could remove that from Mule Kick, I would, just because I'm so used to double tapping triangle to swap my guns and like canceling reloads and stuff.
right?
But like the extra plates, the extra ammo, multi-pack, those are all huge. So I think if they could come up with some more fun ideas for more utility and stuff like that, Armormatic, I would be very happy with those. It is interesting to me that you don't consider Who's Who a get out of jail free card though. Although you did give the caveat that it is something that requires skill. So I have to ask, in your mind, does it function like it would in the past, where if you were, let's say you have equivalent exchange and who's who, so when you go down but not down, you're able to revive yourself with who's who, and if you're unsuccessful in that, do you then just go down and have equivalent exchange active?
Yeah, that's a good point. 'Cause, like, nobody would run Who's Who if they could just, like, equivalent exchange their way out of it. Maybe hmm,
Well, it would, in the way it's functioning in my head, it would even then prevent you from having to use your equivalent exchange, and you could like
so you
keep
could save
your
them.
limited three, which in my head that still sounds like a get out of jail free card. But
Yeah,
I
but
like the
it
skill
comes with a
aspect you're
risk,
talking
though.
about. Yeah,
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 like
yeah.
that I said it was like a bet on yourself, basically, where as opposed to just like, "Oh, I just Ether Shroud and I'm instantly out of whatever, like, situation I'm in," like, Who's Who is like, "I think I'm good enough to revive myself on this round with just a pistol, like, no perks, no field upgrade, like, none of that." I guess I would appreciate that more than just, like, an Ether Shroud where you just press a couple buttons and, like, you're good to go, like, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Who's Who would be more of like a bet on yourself, even if, you could if you're that good, I guess it's a a get out of jail free card, but at least it's a get out of jail free card, but only because you're good enough to sort of get around the zombies and, like, hoard them up and then give yourself enough time to revive yourself at the same time. I'm not sure if that should yeah, I don't know how that would interact with the, equivalent exchange augment.
Well, I'm wondering if you're proposing that when you die in who's who, you fully die and you're never in the downed state. Is that what you're kind of shooting for?
So you're saying, like, that would be if you have Who's Who, let's say you have Who's Who and, like, you don't have Quick Revive or something, like, Who's Who would only activate once you're out of, like, self revives and equivalent exchange and all that? Is that what you're saying?
No, but actually that makes more sense.
Yeah,
That
that's like
answers my question. Okay, so okay, that makes it a lot better than what I thought you were saying.
okay,
Because
sweet.
in the past, in the past, it was it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was when you go down, you immediately go into who's who, and you
Yep,
attempt to revive yourself. And whether you run out of time or
yep.
you in your like phantom sort of form get quote unquote killed, you then go into your real body in a downed state. Is
Oh
that how it
gosh, is
worked
it
in the past?
I thought you just died. I'm pretty sure you just die if you're not able to get there in time. So that's why Who's Who would be like, if you lose all your perks or run out of equivalent exchange and like the self revives and stuff, then Who's Who's like your final, like you got to like be really good if you want to get like one more chance to stay in the zombies game, because the others are just like no skill. You just kind of have the thing and then you get up, as opposed to Who's Who where maybe it's like more geared for like the better players, but yeah, you would just be able to have one more crack at staying in the game.
Yeah, your way of proposing it makes a lot more sense, because then I had questions about if you had who's who active, like maybe then like you don't ever actually go down, like you just have to get yourself back up. And then it would become a question of how would mystery perks work? Because what if you don't want that and now it's in the
Yeah,
perk pool and
yeah.
then you get stuck with it? Okay, I like that though. So if you're out of self revives and equivalent exchanges, then that's when who's who procs. I'd be down for that. I do like that.
Yeah, I guess I wonder how it would play though, because like you kind of just have a perk for this like super specific situation that you would find like it doesn't everything else is pretty frequent that you experience it, and Who's Who would just kind of be this like dormant perk that's just waiting to be used at the very end of your game kind of thing.
Mm. Yeah, maybe. I guess. And we would have to see what kind of augments they would kind of lay out for
Oh,
that.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Wisp T is kind of similar in that way. It's obviously being used every so often. It's not a very consistent perk, but the augments kind of help with that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm down to let them cook with this idea.
Yeah,
I
whatever perk they decide to go with.
oh I'm a who's who truther now.
Okay, yeah. I sold you on it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I think that about wraps up everything. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the first episode of the Pack Mentality podcast. Comment down below, let us know what is on your wish list for Paradox Junction and season 2 in general. What are you hoping to see? Do you hope we see a new perk? What are your thoughts about the Blundergat Wonder Weapon? Are we going to hell? Let us know your thoughts down below.
If you guys haven't yet, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Looking forward to making more of these podcasts in the future. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter as well, at AQDebbie and then at ShorbZYT. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. We appreciate you a ton, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.